You know, I really came about this profession in a very roundabout way. I applied to college and I got into the School of Business down at the University of Illinois, and I went down to register my freshman year, and I found that all of the course selections sounded so dead boring. I thought I'm never going to last in this for 4 years. So I started going through the course catalog and I started looking for just something that sounded really interesting and something that would kind of pique my interest. And I found landscape architecture, which was a major I'd never even heard of before. And I'm driving in the car with my dad, and I said, well, how about if I switch majors when we go down to register for classes today? And he's like, well, what do you want to be? And I said, I think this landscape architecture looks really good. And he's like, I've never heard of that. You can't make a living doing something like that.
How did I become a landscape architect? A circuitous route is what I described it as.
Well, I go back to the first environmental movement, and at the time I had thought that I wanted to be some type of artist, and I kept sort of narrowing what I was going to do. I turned towards design and then chose landscape architecture for two reasons. One, because I felt that the environment was really in trouble. And secondly, because I felt that landscape architecture was the closest I could get to painting from a visual art.
It actually was interesting. I was started off in genetic engineering, something completely different than landscape architecture.
I grew up in a family that's landscaping and florists. My father's a professor of biology, so I had the science side of it, and I liked the design, but I always understood that there was something that needed to be done for Mother Nature.
I was always one of those kids that we grew up in a wooded lot. I was always out in the woods, looking at nature, observing nature, going on hikes and things like that.
It was introduced during my time at Ball State, where I began to understand what the full gamut of architecture was. Architecture had its limits. Landscape architecture appeared to have a broader range of things that we could be included with.
At Uniloc, we really value the landscape architect as our primary client. They've always been the best facilitator between the engineer and the architect. They seem to understand how the two different disciplines relate to each other and are very easy to work with.
I often say that we're a jack of all trades profession, and so you have to know a little bit about a lot of things. And in having to be able to cover all of those bases, you've really got to have a solid understanding of it and be passionate about what you're doing.
As our environments get more and more dense, landscape architects humanize our environments. So really, there are all kinds of projects that we do where our influence can be really tremendous.
I think landscape architects have the power to change people's perceptions of the natural world and make them care about it more.
Many people in the public still view us as just garden designers, but landscape architectural education has always been founded in ecology and environmental design.
I just realized that everybody thought of this more as art, and it really is almost all science.
That it combines so many fields that I've always had a real interest in, particularly art, which was my undergraduate major. And what I've always loved most about art is its capacity to kind of enliven the senses of the people experiencing it.
Landscape architecture is a perfect balance of art and science. It's neither art nor science. It's a very beautiful mixture of both, I guess.
We talk about the art and science of landscape architecture, but it certainly demonstrated to me that all those things were there. The art part of it, the creative aspects of it, the drawing, all those kinds of things. But also the use of science in the sense of ecology and geology and all those kinds of things that go into creating a project.
It's a misunderstood profession. It's not just doing somebody's backyard or their front landscape. It's really working in an environment where you can impact a larger group of people or community.
If I had $1 for every time someone asked, can I put a bush in front of their house, and I mean bush, then I'd be a rich man today.
I think the profession has changed dramatically since I first began with the advent of technology and the computer, with the interface between the design professions, architecture, engineering, and landscape architecture.
The other thing that I would say about landscape architecture, which is changing, is again this idea of a kind of an elevated awareness of the profession, and the idea that landscape architects can actually take a leadership role in a larger public realm.
From every project that you're involved with, at least, that I've been involved with, it involves partnering with some allied profession at some point, be it architects, be it civil engineers, be it fountain designers, and be it planners. At just about every project we've worked with, we've had to have some type of communication and coordination with that allied profession.
Sustainability.
Sustainable design with landscape architecture is a matter of making something blend with nature so well that you can't tell where the design ends and nature takes off.
I think what's going to happen in the future is I think we're going to look back and say it pays to be patient, it pays to be systematic, it pays to be thoughtful, it pays to be generous. And I think these are going to be the qualities that are going to sustain the country, and I suspect sustain landscape architecture over the next 10 years.
Landscape architects have the privilege of designing how people interact with their environment, what they see, what they hear, how they feel. And I think that is the most powerful thing out there right now. It can change a community, it can change someone's life, and people don't think of it that way, but really that's what we're doing.
I believe that urban parks, especially in Chicago, are really changing the face of landscape architecture throughout the entire world.
Chicago is kind of like a laboratory. You know, a lot of people come here, see things, and they're willing to go back and try it. Just think of all the things Mayor Daley has done.
My father once told me that design was not only meant for the rich. Quality design was not only meant for the rich. And I think that's significant because we do significant projects throughout the entire city.
Neighborhoods have been designed so that kids can't play outside. They've lost contact with the natural world. And in that unstructured playtime allows their brain to begin to think very critically and about decision making, whereas when you're in a structured setting, your brain kind of kicks back and says, all right, I don't have to do anything because I'm being told what to do. And so it's getting those kids out and back in touch with the natural world that's extremely important.
We live in an environment where people day to day, work every day, get home. They need to have a place where they can come and enjoy leisure and want to come to an environment. I like to call them recreation environments where people can enjoy, they can relax, really enjoy nature and become a part and in tune with nature.
It took a long time to get the world as messed up as we made it, and it's going to take a while to put it back together, I think, and landscape architects, given their breadth of knowledge, I think, and their relationship with other design professionals, I think we're in an outstanding position to be on the forefront of that. Not just because of, or I should say, maybe even more so than some of the environmental sciences. They may be more on the technical side, but landscape architecture has always been about how that technology is applied to everyday problems and challenges, and I think that's what landscape architects are really good at.
This is a great time to be a landscape architect in Chicago. We have the Burnham celebration taking place with architects and planners and landscape architects all having big meetings in Chicago. It's an opportunity for us to showcase our work next year. And then after that, the Olympics will be coming, we hope, to Chicago. And I'm hoping that all of us have an opportunity to participate in the design possibilities that are going to happen around that event.